Hey besties, welcome back to the channel. So this week on Sister Wives, we start off with Meri sitting down with a friend and talking about the idea of dating again. And let me tell you, this conversation hits heavy. Meri says flat out that Kody lied to her and that her entire life with him feels like it was built on a lie. That's not a small thing to say after decades of marriage. Meanwhile, Janelle is still in New Orleans with her friends, living a little, laughing, and having those real conversations about life after Kody. You can tell she's in that space where she's trying to figure out who she is without the constant stress. Then we cut over to Kody and Robyn, who sit down for what the show presents as a special meal, one where they discuss deep, meaningful topics, like Kody apologizing to his ex-wives. And yes, we also get a lighter moment with Christine and David going bowling, which honestly felt like a breath of fresh air. And that's the episode, you guys. That's really it. Now, here's the thing. We all know a lot of what we're watching feels staged, at least when it comes to Kody and Robyn. I don't buy most of what they're selling, but when Meri tells her story, I believe her. When Christine speaks, I believe she's telling her truth. And when Janelle talks about how she feels in the moment, that feels genuine too. I don't think any of these women are being cruel, vindictive, or wrong for speaking out. They just walked away from extremely long, deeply complicated relationships that were chaotic at their core. And one big pattern I keep noticing with all of them is this. Being married to Kody meant living in constant chaos. Not the exciting kind, the exhausting kind. The kind where you never feel steady, never feel secure, and never quite know what's coming next. It kept all of them emotionally off balance for years, and now every single one of them is clearly searching for peace after that chaos. So of course, now that Kody is no longer at the center of their lives, he wants to insert himself back in, with apologies. Christine is remarried, so there's only so much disruption Kody can cause there. That door is pretty well closed. So his next target on the apology tour is Janelle. But before he can even speak to her, he apparently needs permission from his current wife, Robyn. And to set up this whole apology storyline, production gives us a very serious, very intentional dinner scene. Kody looks absolutely terrified to bring this up to Robyn, and honestly, that's probably because it would require him to leave the house for several days and be away from her, and we all know how that goes. Remember, the tenders can't be without Kody for more than 2 days. Heaven forbid. So Kody and Robyn go out to dinner, and Kody starts explaining that after the Coyote Pass situation finally closed, he felt manipulated by the wives. He says he felt unsafe during that entire process, especially while trying to sell the property. He even says he was having what he calls traumatic responses because he still felt tied to his ex-wives. According to him, that connection made him feel manipulated and unsafe. Let that sink in for a second. This is the same man who manipulated these women for years. The same man who made them feel unsafe emotionally, financially, and spiritually throughout their marriages, and now he's presenting himself as the victim. Honestly, if deflection were an Olympic sport, Kody would be bringing home gold. But here's what's interesting. Kody and Robyn love using the word unsafe. They say it constantly, and I don't think that's an accident. Part of it, I believe, is because they don't see the other wives as being like them. And when you label someone as unsafe, you automatically separate yourself from them. You other them. It's a subtle way of dehumanizing people without saying it outright. Anyway, Kody continues on, explaining to Robyn that this whole experience was just so traumatic for him, and then, after all of that, he suddenly realizes that during the process of selling the property and letting go, he might not have been very kind to the women. Might not have been kind. Yeah, might is doing a lot of work there.
So Kody goes on to admit that, yes, he was yucky, mean, angry, and hostile when the wives tried to leave him. He says he hurt them with his words and his behavior, and now he wants to apologize for some of that. But here's the catch. He's very clear that he only wants to apologize for the things he believes he needs to be accountable for, not the things they say he did wrong. And that right there tells you everything. This is just another way for Kody to stay in control. He decides the limits of his accountability. He'll say sorry for what fits his version of the story, but not for what challenges it. And that's not really how apologies work, is it? A real apology doesn't come with fine print. Then he takes it a step further. He explains this whole idea to Robyn by saying he prayed to God, and that this apology tour is basically a divine mission, a spiritual calling, a godly pilgrimage of forgiveness. Yes, he really goes there. Kody has openly admitted before that he's struggled with delusions of grandeur for years, and moments like this make that painfully clear. He frames himself as this benevolent, godly figure doing something noble for the sake of his ex-wives, when in reality, this is about him. He believes that if he does this, they'll finally stop speaking negatively about him. So again, this isn't about healing them, it's about managing his image. What's interesting is that Robyn doesn't seem fully on board at first. It almost feels like this wasn't discussed ahead of time because she looks a little uncomfortable. She even tells him, well, you don't really need to apologize for things you did when you were hurt. And honestly, that's nonsense. Being hurt doesn't excuse hurting others. At that point, Kody starts stumbling over his words and then gets very firm. He tells her, no, this isn't just a thought. This isn't hypothetical. He is doing this, and he needs her to understand that. He explains that this apology is meant for all 3 ex-wives, but not at the same time. He's very clear about that. He doesn't want Robyn getting any funny ideas about him meeting with all of them together. He says that would set him up for total failure. Then he checks in with her, almost nervously, asking if she thinks the idea is foolish. You can tell Robyn wants to say more, but he cuts her off. He's determined to make it clear that this is happening, whether she's fully comfortable or not. One detail really stood out to me here, the way he stressed that he would never meet with all 3 women together. And it makes you wonder why. Because maybe, just maybe, Robyn is afraid of what would happen if Kody actually sat with them without needing to defend her, if he listened with an open mind, if he heard their shared truth. And that truth is simple. When Kody met Robyn, he abandoned his family. That's not opinion. That's what happened. And Robyn cannot stand that truth. She has never liked hearing it. She doesn't want to be seen as the woman who came into a family and blew it apart. She's hated that label since day one. She's even talked about it herself, going all the way back to the book Becoming Sister Wives, where she admitted she pushed producers to show her in a more favorable light because viewers saw her as a homewrecker. She didn't like that narrative. She's never liked it. But here's the thing. Disliking the truth doesn't make it go away.
According to Robyn, she wasn't breaking up a family. She was joining one. But if Kody were to actually sit down and listen to the other wives, really listen, Robyn might worry he'd start hearing things about her from their point of view instead of hers. And people with strong narcissistic tendencies don't like that. They prefer to keep others as far away from uncomfortable truths as possible. Because of that, I don't think Kody will ever seriously consider that Robyn played a role in any of this. He made his choice. He chose Robyn, and years later, he's still with her. That tells us everything. I honestly don't understand why the 2 of them keep running from that fact, unless it's pure pride. And then Robyn says something that stopped me in my tracks. She straight up admits she can influence him. She says that if she weighs in too quickly on his creative ideas, she can push them in a positive or negative direction. She adds that this apology is something Kody needs to own completely, and that she doesn't think it's wrong for someone to apologize if they feel they've hurt someone. On the surface, that sounds reasonable. But listen closely. Kody immediately follows that by saying he doesn't want to apologize for what he's been accused of, only for what he knows he's done. And there it is. This is the 2 of them working together to shape the narrative. Robyn frames it as, it's okay to apologize if you think you hurt someone. Kody finishes the thought with, but only for what I agree I did wrong. They're both saying the same thing in different ways. And that kind of apology isn't for the people you hurt. It's for yourself. It protects your ego. It lets you say sorry without actually taking responsibility. What I see in Kody is someone who refuses to accept accountability for what really caused the family to fall apart. He won't acknowledge that he emotionally left the family when he chose Robyn and put her on a pedestal. He won't admit that he neglected the other wives, neglected the kids, and stopped showing up in meaningful ways. Instead, the women were expected to keep working, keep sacrificing, and stay in miserable marriages, while he went off with Robyn and lived his best life. Then he'd show up for filming, say his lines, and disappear again. That's the part he refuses to own. He doesn't want to be accused of abandoning the family, so instead he focuses on how he reacted after they left. Yes, his behavior after the breakups was awful, but that's not why they left him in the first place. Does that make sense? They didn't walk away because of his angry words after the fact. They walked away because of years of neglect, favoritism, and emotional abandonment before they ever left. But Kody doesn't want to go there. He'll apologize for his reactions, not for the choices that caused the damage. Robyn won't take responsibility either,
and the one thing Kody really wants to apologize for is saying he never loved the women. But again, he said that after they left. He thinks that statement is what broke the family. He truly believes that if he just apologizes for saying he never loved them, everyone will magically move on. That's not it, not even close. What he still doesn't understand is that while they were together, his actions were already hurting people deeply. And because he can't face that truth, he'll never be able to fully take accountability. Honestly, I think he's incapable of it, and I think Robyn is too. When he reflects on saying he never loved them, he admits he meant it at the time, but later realized how cruel it was. He says it shook the family. And when someone asks if that statement made them feel betrayed, the response says it all. It made them question everything. Did I even know who he was? Was I deceived this whole time? That's the real damage, and it didn't start with words. It started years before. What Kody actually said here is very telling. He admits that when he said, "I never loved them," he meant it at the time. He was serious. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. Only a year or two later did he decide that even if it was true, it was a terrible thing to say out loud. So now he wants to apologize, not because it wasn't true, but because it sounded bad. And this comes after years of Robyn nudging him, poking at him, and pushing back on that narrative. Remember last season when she kept saying, "You're rewriting the past"? She repeatedly reminded him, "You told me you loved them when I first came into the family." Over and over she questioned him. And in doing that, Robyn slowly positioned herself as the victim. The story became that she was deceived, that Kody tricked her into believing he loved these women, and that she was entering a real polygamous family, only to later discover that he never loved them at all. So when you really look at it, this apology tour has two purposes. First, Kody wants the ex-wives to stop talking about him. And second, and maybe more importantly, he's trying to make things right with Robyn. He's apologizing for saying he didn't love the women, not because it hurt them, but because it hurt Robyn. Because if he didn't love them, then that means he deceived her. And honestly, he probably did deceive her. Kody deceives every partner he's with. That's just who he is. Being with Robyn didn't magically make him honest. And Robyn, she's no stranger to deception either. She is who she is, no matter who she's with. But this particular issue clearly struck a nerve with her. She starts talking about her past in the church, about growing up around women who were emotionally and physically neglected by their husbands, yet forced to stay in those marriages because of their faith. Men who didn't love them but wouldn't let them go. The irony there is hard to miss, because that's exactly what she helped Kody do to Meri for years. She talks about how devastating it is to share resources, time, and love, yet never truly be considered, never be cared for, never be loved, and she says that's wrong. Then she admits something huge. She says when Kody told her he never loved the other wives, it broke her heart. She says that his ability to love those women was one of the things that made her fall in love with him, so when he said he never loved them, she thought, who is this man? Do I even know him? And right there, you have proof that Robyn understands exactly what Meri, Janelle, and Christine went through. She acknowledges the devastation, the heartbreak, and the neglect. She knows it was wrong, and yet that was the reality for those women the entire time, and she participated in it, especially with Meri. So when Robyn starts crying, it becomes very clear. This apology isn't for the women. It's not about their pain. It's for Robyn. In my opinion, Kody is terrified that if he doesn't fix this, Robyn might leave him, and Robyn is his trophy. Losing her would mean admitting that everything he destroyed, his marriages, his family, his relationships with his kids, was for nothing. His ego is completely tied up in her, so he'll do whatever it takes to keep her. And the truth is, these two are deeply toxic together. They manipulate each other constantly, and they're always on the edge of losing control of the relationship. Once I realized what this apology was really about, I felt sick for the other women, because this is not the apology they wanted. This isn't what they needed. The apology they deserved would have sounded like this. I'm sorry I left you for another woman. I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth sooner. I'm sorry I strung you along, neglected you, mistreated you, and failed your children. That's the apology that mattered.
Kody then makes one of the most unsettling admissions we've heard from him. He says he was so hurt and so angry at one point that he grabbed a knife and swung it so hard he cut himself. Then, almost in the same breath, he says he wants to be more benevolent, but admits that he's not. He says he has potential. Robyn jumps in and tells him, yes, he can be rough, and Kody responds by saying he's going to be a bulldozer. Not in a cruel way, he claims, but in a way where he stays on his path no matter how much pushback he gets, and he knows there will be serious pushback. So even he understands these apologies probably won't be well received, but instead of slowing down and listening, his plan is to push through anyway, to bulldoze his way through the conversations and deliver the apologies on his terms, regardless of how the women respond. And that's the real problem. He's framing the issue based on his worldview and Robyn's worldview, not on the reality of what actually hurt these women.
Yes, you can apologize for something if you feel bad about it. That's fine. But if that's not the reason the other person is upset, then the apology won't land. It won't heal anything. In this case, he's apologizing for saying, "I never loved you." But that's not why they left him. Sure, maybe he stopped loving them. Sure, he neglected them, especially once Robyn came into the picture. But the problems existed long before Robyn. She didn't create the cracks in the foundation. She just exposed them and made them impossible to ignore. And then Kody chose her and walked away from the rest. So apologizing for a statement he made after they left doesn't address the real pain. It doesn't undo years of emotional abandonment, favoritism, and neglect. At best, they might say, "Thank you for saying that," but I guarantee you the conversation won't end there. Because the real response would be, "That's not what this was about." And I think Kody knows that on some level. That's why this whole thing feels like it's being done for Robyn, for his ego, and to get the women to stop talking about him publicly, not for their healing. And this is exactly why, when it comes to Meri, we see such an explosive reaction. She's not asking him to apologize for one comment. She's asking him to take responsibility for the toxicity he brought into her life, and he simply doesn't have the capacity to do that, because he doesn't see beyond himself. After this dinner conversation, Kody gets in the car and starts driving to North Carolina. On the road, he admits he's been acting like a 12-year-old, and now, in his mind, he's beginning a spiritual journey, a redemption pilgrimage, where he's going to apologize to Janelle. And notice this, he starts with Janelle because it's easier. He likes her better than Meri and Christine. He doesn't want to face the other two yet, so he begins where he feels safest. We'll break down what Meri and Janelle said in this episode in other videos because there's a lot there. But as far as Kody's part in all of this, it's a mess. Now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this so-called apology tour? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let's try to hit 10,000 likes today. And make sure you click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.